Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It's Monday, August 4th, a little after 7:45 in the evening, and this will be our video covering YieldMax, weekly paying dividend funds, ULTY, the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund, and LFGY, the crypto industry and tech portfolio option income ETF. Before I get started, as always, just a reminder, I'm on X at ETF_Inspector1, picking up a decent amount of followers lately, 525. That's what we're up to. As far as YouTube, we're up to 2.7 thousand. That's a weird way to say it. 2,770. And I let you know when videos are being released, trades within funds if they're the 0 DTE, and post my thank yous from Buy Me a Coffee, which is a nice segue into the next part. I wanted to thank Larson here, Thermo Satoshi on X, said, keep up the good work on ULTY. I always look forward to your videos, even with the hilarious dad jokes. Oh, that says corny, sorry. Okay, so thank you to Larson for the support. And then also another thank you. Let me scroll down and find it. Make sure I say the right name. So Darren, I think I forgot to write this one down, but luckily I see it here. Darren, this is, I think, Darren's fourth time, so thank you very much, Darren. $5 super thanks. He is the man, Darren Winslow. And here it was, CC Man 329. So this is my first Canadian money, $20.99 Canadian for super thanks. Thank you, CC Man. Guys, let me know if you like the sound. I've had a lot of complaints about it being too quiet. I did find a input setting that I was able to adjust, so hopefully this video's louder to your liking, not too loud. Let me know. I'll adjust it now that I know how to do that. So let's get into what you're here for. We had what we expected to have today, and that was recovery from the overreaction on Friday. We've got a whole lot of green on the screen, a little bit of red, but for the most part, right, ULTY was up to $6.12. Everybody got all scared. Now they're right back to wishing they could have bought more at $6. We did sell our shares of Innodata. And then we scrolled down to LFGY. Some of the same stocks are within the fund, so we don't have the full representation as we get down. LFGY had a great day, 2.67% increase with mostly green as well. We'll get more detailed. This is kind of just giving you a visual color-wise, and you got to see the thumbnail, right? So we start by downloading the intraday trades. Popped up on the wrong screen there. And this has been one of the easier days in a long time. So ULTY is always going to have lots of trades, but it's not too bad. Line 87 through 170. The dog over here. Less than 100 trades to go through. And then LFGY giving us the easiest day yet. 4 trades, 1 stock. So we like that. We'll start with ULTY. That's what most of you are here for. For starters, they start out with the individual underlyings. So we sold all of our shares of Innodata. We won't be in that fund anymore. It's a shame, if you notice, the price we got for them, right around $42, and you saw they actually made a decent recovery. Where is it? So they dropped. I guess we sold out, and they came all the way back up. $3 more a share than what we got for selling them. So hindsight's always 20/20. So we're not criticizing there, just pointing out that stinks. So that's the only thing we sold, and then we went ahead and put some money to work, buying more of a decent amount of the underlyings. Right, there's the money that was made through Innodata, as well as money from more people buying into the fund. So we won't read through them. You're about to find out what they were, because if we bought shares, we immediately start selling options off of them. ULTY trades a collar strategy, so they will buy the shares, sell calls out of the money, and then buy puts to protect those value of those shares. and you're also going to see how well that works. Okay, so we're starting off with a nice run here. The first handful here: AppLovin, AST Space Mobile, BitMine Immersion, Webull, Coinbase, Galaxy, and Robinhood. This is all just selling new calls and buying new puts to go with the new shares that were purchased, collecting $328,000, $428,000, $41,000, $294, $133,000, $610,000, and $232,000 collectively, or respectively. Sorry about that. I just want to look at Webull real quick. We really bought $19,000 worth of Webull when we bought $16 million worth of most of the other ones. That's funny. Okay, Innodata, this is our first full transaction. That's because we were buying to close all the calls that we had sold and selling all the protective puts. That resulted in $13.4 million. So this is what ULTY is all about, buying those protective puts. So we had that stock market downturn Friday, really overreaction over the whole August 1st thing. But Innodata didn't really quite make the recovery. It looked like they were going down even worse. But with that allowed us to pay minimal to close out the calls that we had sold, and at the same time collect lots of money, $14 million, selling those puts that were protecting us. So that helped a lot. Okay, IonQ, selling calls and buying puts to go with the new shares, $158,000 collected. Mara Holdings. So we closed our 18s that were the calls sold for this Friday, and sold 1650s. We dropped our strike closer, and then we also started more of the collar to go with the new shares, collecting $941,000. MicroStrategy, Nebius, and Oakglow, all selling calls and buying puts to go with the new shares, collecting $228,000, $132,000, and $220,000. Palantir is going to be our first negative on the day. I believe they had a good earnings report and moved higher. Let's see if that's the case. Up 4%. Raised their annual forecast again on surging demand. So Palantir has really been having a heck of a year. Look at that. 113% on the year. So when that happens, right, you're going to run through the calls. They buy to close and sell new ones further out of the money. Still kept it within the same week, and then also adjusted the puts as well, and sold more shares to go with the new sold new options to go with the new shares. All in all, it was a debit or loss of $935,000. That's okay. A 4% increase in Palantir stock is going to have way more of a positive impact on our shares than that negative impact on the trading. Reddit, this was only a partial, right? They have a little over 5,000 contracts at this price. The 195s, they closed them out, sold them for 210s, but not the full position. That's why they don't get the orange. $1.9 million expense there. Adjusted the puts as well. So just that's another thing, right? So the price we were protecting our shares at was 170. We've now moved that up to 185. So as the price goes up, we continue to try to make premium, collecting time value, selling the calls, close that out, right? So we weren't necessarily capped. If they had left it alone, we'd have been capped at 195. But since the stock was going up, they closed it, sold a new 210, so they basically uncapped it and moved their maximum increase in value up a good portion, and they also locked in a higher value in the event that the price starts to go back down. That's what you're getting for your 1.3 or 1.4% expense, and while you're collecting an 80% yield. Rigetti, so they sold sold new calls and bought more puts to go with the new shares, and then they also just adjusted their one put, selling the 12.50 and buying a 14. So they just protected their price. They moved it up and still collected 148,000. SMCI, that's a super microcomputer, New Scale Power, Upstart, and Vertiv, all selling calls and buying puts to go with the new shares, collecting 201,000, 220,000, 309,000, and $238,000 respectively. And finally, Vistra Corp closed out their 504 contracts for 200 strike price and sold for $222.50. Still kept it within the same week. So as you can see, that's going to cost a pretty penny. Adjusted their puts as well and spent $798,000 to do it. So all in all, for the trip, sorry about that, just knocked my phone off the desk. We don't include the purchasing or selling of the underlyings in our options income trading because that would look like negatives every single time people put money in the fund and they put the money to work by buying shares. So that's why that's not a part of that. So it's just the option income. That resulted in a $14,289,000 increase or credit on the day. That's a great start to the week. And after last week, rough week, we overall dropped our value by $84 million over the course of the week. We bounced by $87 million just today in value. If you didn't see my Sunday video, you ought to. It's always everyone's favorite. Dig a whole lot deeper. It takes a whole lot longer to go through all the information, and part of it is coming up with the guesstimate. Based on the IV, I said 10 cents. I thought based on how rough the week was, they might drop it down, and with the share price going down. But they do say, while they don't use the trade information from Monday, they stop using the trade information on the previous Friday. They do say they make the decision and put it in on Monday. So there's a good chance that they saw this recovery, and maybe we will get that 10 cents. So stay tuned. We'll find out on Wednesday morning. All right, when we take a look at the underlyings themselves, we're going to see how they performed and how it leaves their options. So starting off with Applied Optoelectronics, they were up over 3%. All their options are still out of the money. Everything sold for this week, everything from $23 through $27 strikes. They run from 3.6 all the way to 21.6% out of the money. AppLovin was up over 4%. They've got 400s and 420s sold for Friday, 1.2 and 6.3% out of the money. If you look in this last column here, this is how much the increase or decrease in the underlying affected the overall value of the fund. AST Space Mobile down over 2%. They've got 56s and 5650s sold for this Friday. Much more at the 5650, 14,000 contracts compared to 820. They're basically 9 and 10% out of the money. Bitmine Immersion Technology down 2.2%. They've got 3350s and 37s sold for this week, 8.1 and about 19.5% out of the money. And then they have 35s and 39s sold for next Friday, with the most at the 35. They are basically 13 and almost 26% out of the money. Webull, this is the one where we put $19,000 more into it while everything else has $100 million in them. Up over 7% today. 14.29 closing price. 15.50 is the strike for the calls sold on Friday. About 8.5% out of the money still after today's increase, so that's nice. Coinbase up 1.11%. We've got calls sold this Friday for 330 and 335. They're 3.7 and 5.2% out of the money. Galaxy Digital was up almost 7.5%. We've got strikes for 29, 31, and 32. The majority in the middle there at 31, 24,000 contracts. 0.38, 7.3, and 10.7% out of the money. Robinhood had a big day, up almost 6.5%. We've got our 104s went in the money by 2.2%, but no action was taken. We've also got 108s that are 1.5% out of the money still. 6 million plus increase in value off of that. Innodata, this is the one that we sold our shares on. So unfortunately, while that says they were down 0.26% on the day, we locked in a much lower price, selling right around 42. But closed out all the shares, and that's okay. Decrease in value. It's going to be a good bit different. Let's see if I can enter something without messing up my formulas. If we said 42, it would have been a $7 million. So it was more like a $7.5 million decrease. Actually loss on the day because we did sell the shares. Now let me go back so I don't mess up things. But like we said, we sold the puts alone for $14 million. IonQ up 4.6%. This helped if you watched my my personal trade video over the weekend, because I was in trouble and had to roll the puts out to this week to 39. So that 4.6% bounce back up over 39 helped me, helped them too. $40.50, $43.50, and $44.50 and $45 are the strikes. We got anywhere between 1.5 and 12.8% out of the money, all expiring this Friday. So that's real nice. We got a $5.8 million increase in value without any of our calls going in the money. Mara Holdings up almost 3.5%. The only thing they did was adjusted these 18s. I want to make sure I didn't mess up there. Oh, yeah, that's right. They sold the 18s and moved them to 1650, right? Bought the close, or not sold, but bought the close the 18s and sold them at 1650. So they just adjusted them. So now there's going to be a whole lot more 40, 50, oh, I don't know, 50,000 plus when you combine these two plus even more that they got. All are going to be 2.8% out of the money, and then the other almost 28,000 contracts at 1750, 9% out of the money. MicroStrategy, starting the week off pretty tight, up over 6% in a day. 390 is our strike price. 389.24 was the close. They are 0.2% out of the money. So we did get to see that full increase in value without any kind of cap. But another up day is going to force us to close those out and roll them. Nebius Group up over 4% today. We've got 54 50s, 55 50s, and 59s all expiring Friday. The majority in the middle, 55. They are 0.6, 2.4, and 8.9% out of the money. Oklo up almost 7%, 6.9%. It took those 75s in the money. The 79s got left 3.38% out of the money. No action was taken. Palantir up 4.14%. They went ahead and closed and rolled the 160s that went in the money along with the puts associated with them. But they still have 162 50s and 165s for this Friday that are 1.1 and 2.7% out of the money. Next we have Qualcomm. We don't own any shares of them, so it looks a little different on the chart. We just go straight into their options. Their price closed at 147.51. I can't remember if that was a decrease. Yep, about a 0.5% decrease. So we don't really care too much about the percentage of increase or decrease, and there is no change in market value because we don't own shares. So our shares didn't change, go up or down in value. So it's just these options got further or closer to the money, and with them they also have a very interesting strategy here. At the bottom, this is easy. It's just a sold credit put spread where they sold the 145s and bought the 140s. So as long as it stays above 145, we win that trade. It's currently 1.7% in our favor or out of the money. They've also got this crazy position up here. I don't even know which one to follow and which one's the protection. we've purchased calls at 145 and 155, but not the same amount. So, and they're not at the same price. It's not like a two purchases for one sale to be like a ratio spread. This is some sort of custom thing. And then we sold calls in the middle at 150. So in order for those 150 calls to win, we need it to be under 150. So we get to keep all that money we collected. But then that means these 155s we purchased will be worthless. So I guess like 149.99 would be our best bet, because our 145s would have a nice value and these would expire worthless and these would. So anything that would make the 155s be valuable would make the 150s cost a lot of money to close out. So that's why they're blue. Don't even know which way we want this to go. 1.7% in the money on that first purchase, 1.7% out of the money on the sale, and 5% out of the money on the next purchase. Yeah, if we could do an interview, we could ask about that and get that one explained to us. Not that we're saying they don't know what they're doing. I'm just saying I don't know what they're doing. Reddit up 6.8%. This was the one, I believe, I'll double check it. Yep, where they rolled about half of them and left the other half alone. So that's why we don't have any orange, no construction. These will still be here tomorrow, just with a different number of contracts and 2 more option lines below. Up 6.8% and took those 195s 3.2% in the money. Next, we have Rigetti, big winner of the day over here on ULTY, 11.6% increase. So that took our value up by over $15 million. So like I said, and actually it didn't even cost us any money on the other side. But we'll see. At some point, we're going to close those out. But for now, no action was taken, and really all we did was adjust these puts and brought it up even more. So they're really positioning themselves well, increased in value by $15 million, and also brought these 1250 puts up to protect us in the event that it retraces or falls back from that huge increase. But for now, their 15s and 1550s are in the money, 4.8 and 1.6%. And then we've got 16s that are some for this week, some for next week, 3 times as many, 1.5% out of the money. SMCI up 2.8%. That took those 55s even further in the money. We already started in the money and went further, 5.5%. Then we've got a little bit of different strategy here. We purchased 6,000 contracts at 60. They're currently 3% out of the money. We want them to go in the money. And then we sold 6,000 contracts at 70. So we did a debit call spread on that. We've also sold $67 calls. So they're 15% out of the money. And then you've got the rest of the puts to go with the sold calls. New Scale Power down 2.4%. We've got 46s, 4750s, and 50s all sold for this week. They are anywhere from 6 to 15+% out of the money. Snap Inc. up 4.8%, just about 950. We've got 10s and 1050s sold, more than 3 times as many at the 1050. They're 5 and 10% out of the money. Tempest AI up 4.79%. Still almost 8% out of the money on those 62s that are sold for Friday. Upstart Holdings up 4.5%. We've got 86s, 88s, and 90s all sold for this Friday. 3.8, 6.2, and 8.6% out of the money. So if you were thinking on Friday, when everything in this fund basically tanked and all of our calls were sold way out of the money, that hey, we should bring them in, buy them, and sell closer. It's a good thing they didn't, or we would have been in all kinds of trouble today. Instead, we got to absorb all that increase, and almost none of it was capped at any point, and we just got to ride that wave right back up while still winning our trades. This is a a very good looking day. 2 times long VIX. While I'm talking about good days, let's talk about the worst one. Down 13.3%. It's okay though, right? So if we look at an 11% increase, brought our value up $15 million, while a 13% decrease only dropped us by 2.6. That's because the UVIX is our smallest holding by a long shot. They just picked these up last week. It seemed like it was perfect timing. Volatility jumped. They sold about half of them, so we made our money on it, sold most of them, and then when it dropped, it didn't hurt nearly as bad because our average within the fund is about 4%, but UVIX, we've only got less than 1% in there, so it didn't really hurt. Anyway, we've got an odd position here. We've sold calls at 20 and purchased the puts at 16. That's our standard collar. Those are 14.9% out of the money. But then we've also sold puts at 14. I might have said 14 last time when I meant 16. They're 19% out of the money. So there is a way to win all of this. So long as it stays under 20, we win this trade. So long as it stays above 14, we win that trade. And then the 16s just protect us. So basically a 19.99 would be perfect, and we'd win double. It's almost like they did a credit put spread just to help pay for purchasing of the puts. I wonder if that's a strategy we're going to move towards, where we sell a call, buy a put, but then also sell a further put just to raise some money to help offset that cost. That's not a bad idea. Vertiv Holdings down 1% even. We've got 145s and 148s sold for this Friday, 3.5% and 5.5% out of the money. And then Vistra Corp up 2.8%. We already went into the week in the money because we had rolled them previously. And the 200s just went deeper, 6.56% in the money. They closed them out and rolled them to a higher strike price as well. I think it was 222.50. And then we've still got 210s in the money by 1.89% and 217.50s that are out of the money by 1.62%. So that is how we came to our $87.6 million increase in value of our fund today. For some reason, that last penny takes absolutely forever to update, because every day it's probably 9 o'clock or later before that finally adjusts to the last penny. See, it shows 612 here and 611 there. But $2.6 billion assets under management. That is before today's increase. So we know that increase is going to take us up over 2.7. And not to mention, we on average get 10, 20, 30 million new outstanding shares. So that's going to be a whole lot more money that will also come in. I mean, there's a chance people sell out and it drops, but I doubt it. So that NAV was before the trading day started. That's basically after Friday's trading day. So that will obviously increase based on how everything went today. And I promise it'll be right around 610 to 612 tomorrow. All right, that's it for ULTY. Now we can move on to LFGY, just setting that page up for the recap at the end. LFGY is going to be a lot quicker, a whole lot less underlyings, and man, gotta love this trade. Not that you gotta love a loss, but for me, the amount of work that gets put in was much easier. So only trade was closing out the 175 NVIDIA calls, 224 of them, and selling them at 182.50, staying within the same week. They don't do a collar strategy, so they don't buy puts. They just sometimes will purchase a further out of the money call to basically as insurance. It's basically to stop the amount that they can lose as the stock runs past their strike. So they closed out that as well, that call, and sold it and bought another one. Okay, so that's easy. We can total that up to $43,000 loss or debit on the trading day. and you can see we're going to have a good day value-wise. Before we go over there, again, we had the Sunday video. We talked about they actually earned enough to pay us 44 cents a share last week, with it being a rough week. But based on the IV, they were only supposed to pay us about 43.3 cents. And then since the value took such a hit and the share price took such a hit, I actually lowered my guesstimate to 43. Again, I'm not sure if they took a look at the rebound this morning before they made their final decision or not. But so I'll leave my guesstimate alone. But we'll see. I think that should be the low end anyway. So we should be able to count on at least 43 cents. All right, so let's go over and look at how they increased their value so much. And again, when I say so much, right, you just got done watching ULTY go up by 87 million. Now we're talking about LFGY and 5 or 6 million, but we just went from a $2.6 billion fund to a $180 million fund. So we're going to have a big difference in dollar amounts. Okay, Bitmine Immersion, the big loser today over here on LFG. What? I must have messed up. That's frustrating because I see a 1.95% decrease right there. So they are not the big loser that I had them marked as. Bitmine Immersion down 1.75%. They are 60% out of the money on these $50 calls, sold for the 15th, so they are not expiring this week. Bitdeer Technology, big day, up over 7%. Love it when you can collect all that and still not go in the money on the calls. 1350s and 1450s for this Friday are 4 and 11.7% out of the money. Clean Spark up 1.72%. They've got 1150s and 1250s for Friday. Almost all of them at 1150. 8.2 and 17.7% out of the money. Coinbase up 1.1%. 6% out of the money on those 337.50s expiring Friday. Core Scientific, the big winner over here, 7.9% increase. That did take their 1350s into the money by 1.1%, but no action was taken. No action was taken on anything other than NVIDIA, so I'm not going to repeat that every time. Circle Internet Group found a way to go down when the whole market was bouncing. Down 1.95%, big loser over here. Still 16.7% out of the money on these 192.50s. Wouldn't be surprised to see them get closed out and rolled closer. They did talk about when they'll do that. If what was it? If the value that they can get when they sell these 205s was enough to make up for the time value left in the 192.50s, that is when they will choose to close those out and roll them. At least they said that's the way for when it goes up. I would assume that would be the same case for going down. iShares Ethereum Trust, that's ETHA, up 4.68% to 27.75, getting close. 28's the strike, 0.9% out of the money. About $3 million in First American Government obligation funds. That's really not going to change. Galaxy Digital up 7.5% almost. Again, got to keep the full increase without being capped. Still had another 0.38% to go on those 29s and 3.8% on those 30s. GameStop, I started a credit put spread on them today. Up 2.4% to 22.63. They've got 23s sold that are 1.6% out of the money. Robinhood Markets up almost 6.5% to over 106. They have 115s and 117s sold. They're 8.1 and about 10% out of the money. HUD 8 Corp up over 7%. Took the 21s in the money by 0.9%. I was looking over here, or 19 cents. iShares Bitcoin Trust up 1.5% to 65.20, increasing the value by 286,000. No options to mention there. Mara Holdings up almost 3.5% They've got 1750s and 1850s sold. They're 9 and 15% out of the money. Then we have MBTX, similar to Qualcomm over there on ULTY. No shares, just options. They've got a credit call spread with the short calls at 295. They're 8.6% out of the money with today's increase to 271.50. They've also got a debit put spread that's the purchased puts are at 230, expiring at the end of the year. I should mention the call spread doesn't expire until next Friday. This debit put spread expires at the end of the year. 230 is the price that the share price needs to approach for that to increase in value. Mercado Libre up 0.8%, just under 2,400. They're still 4.35% out of the money on those 2,500s. MicroStrategy up 6.1%. Another one got the increase in value by almost $1 million with no cap. Still 1.5% and 2.7% out of the money on those 395s and 400s. NU Holdings down a fraction, 0.17% or 2 cents. All right, here was Friday's close. Here's today's close. 8% out of the money on those 13s, expiring not this Friday but next. Nvidia Corp is the only trading action taken, up 3.6%. They went ahead and closed those out and rolled them. Ended right at our purchased call strike. Opera up 2.3%. We've got 1750s and 20s sold for next Friday, not this Friday. Vast majority are at the 20. 7.8 and 23% out of the money. PayPal Holdings, 1.3% increase, 68.01. They got 70s sold. They're 2.9% out of the money. Riot Platforms up over 3.5% to 1142. They've got 12 sold that are 5% out of the money. And finally, Block up 2.8%, and those 83s are still 9% out of the money. So, and that actually updated again since my last check before starting the video. So yeah, some of the, especially the funds, end up taking a little bit of extra time to finalize. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for sometimes. So we'll take it. Even more money. All right, there's $180 million assets under management. That not to include today's increase of almost $6 million in value, and we will find out if anybody bought into the fund to increase our outstanding shares. But for now, they are at 5.1 million. That NAV was before today's nice increase, so that will jump as well. It'll be real close to that 36.57 closing price. So, quick recap. ULTY had a credit of $14.2 million trading on the day and $87 million increase in value of the fund. And LFGY had one trade where they had a debit of $43,000, but they increased in value by $5.9 million. Okay, so only thing left now is the dad joke of the day. I know that's what most of you guys are waiting for. You just listen to me talk for 38 minutes so you can hear a joke. But before I do, thank you, everybody. Appreciate everything. You guys made Sunday's week look ahead and distribution guesstimate my biggest video ever by almost 1,000 views. So really appreciate that. I appreciate all the likes and comments. I got my July update and said there was like 496 comments. I forget how many, 100 or 200, 300 shares, and 2,000 likes. It was cool. I really appreciate it. So, all right. Dad joke of the day. What do you call 50 pigs and 50 deer? 100,000 bucks. 100,000 bucks. Okay. You laughed. Good night. Good luck trading tomorrow, and I'll catch you in the next video.